Hey Sushant, welcome to the Design Podcast. I am very happy to have you here. There are a couple of reasons why I'm excited today. First of all, till now I have been only interviewing people from the automobile industry, but this is kind of the first time that I am interviewing a person from the product design industry. Uh, just to let you know, मैं product design के बारे में बहुत excited रहता हूँ. Probably मेरे हर inspiration board में कोई ना कोई product design तो रहता ही है. So I love what happens in your industry, and I'm very happy and excited to ask so many questions. Let's start from your childhood. How was your childhood? What were the childhood influences? Were there any triggers which led to the creative world of design? सब कुछ बताओ.
I I like how this has already become a therapy session. My childhood was kind of good.
Oh, no.
Now,
Okay.
for the most part, like my childhood was fun. I mean, just like any middle class family, I obviously had to ask a couple of times for anything, but my parents were very supportive of my endeavors, just like most parents. They
Oh,
wanted me to do engineering and they wanted me to do medical or do a pretty standard Indian style
like every other Indian parent,
education.
right?
Pretty much that. But I think when I was in 10th and 11th, I was doing okay in school. By no means I was killing it. I was just good enough. But good enough is never good enough for parents, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
that's always the case. You can always be better. Even if you get more than 90%, you can still be better. But I
True.
think that's when I started actively getting into sketching, making things out of cardboard. I'd play around with clay. And so that
Wow.
period between like middle school and high school, I
Hmm.
started like exploring different creative venues. Like in 10th or 11th, actually, I picked up guitar as well. Just started self-learning. And I think it was pretty natural how I picked those things up. Parents were obviously like, ये तो time waste है, so you should focus on studies. And me on the other end was like I'd often find myself enjoying that more than studies or more than watching TV or the
Hmm.
other things. Anyway, so long story short, when the moment came where I had to decide कि future में क्या करना है, I told my parents that I don't think engineering is my game. I think they kind of knew it because I wasn't doing so well
Okay.
in studies and pretty like visibly frustrated of studying I was. And yeah, we started exploring what do I do with this creative side, whether I explore sort of that horizon between engineering and creativity, which could be architecture or some sort of engineering focused approach. And I was like, no engineering, can we not do engineering? So then we explored a few different career options. One
Okay.
was being an artist, one was being an architect, and the other one was being a designer.
Hmm.
Artist to me felt very almost philosophical and almost very skill based, in the sense that even if you have the skill, that's no guarantee for success, right? uh,
Hmm.
Being an artist means that you not only have to have the skill, you also have to have connections, you have to tell stories, you have to be in the right place at the right time, you have to hustle. It's almost like being an actor. You can
Yes.
be a very high skilled actor, but without the right opportunity, you're probably not going to make it. Uske baad you have architecture and design, though it's a fairly newer field. I think I've been saying that for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
uh, it's also like design has always been on the sidelines. Abhi recently MBA colleges are like, chalo hum bhi design offer karte hain, but that's just
Hmm.
whatever. But yeah, we explored architecture. I gave architecture exams. I did pretty well in those. I gave all design exams. We basically did all our research. Luckily, my parents were
Wow.
supporting my decision.
Hmm.
And they said,
Interesting.
to you explore, we'll also do our best. We found locally, I was in Dehradun at that time, we found locally who knew design, who got into NID, who knows about colleges, and basically just started reaching out to those people. And again, there weren't many. There's like two or three people in a network. Like no one in my family has ever been on the design or
Yeah.
artist side. So yeah, when the time came, I gave all design exams. I
Hmm.
gave the architecture exams. I had a good rank in architecture. I had cleared most of the design colleges except
Wow.
for NID, and I was pretty frustrated that NID I couldn't clear NID because I was like, that's a big college. It's been around for 60 years. Um, but then when I visited all these colleges, I found the one that I really liked, which is where I studied for 5 years, which is in DSK ISD.
Hmm. what you said is also very important, that you appeared for different design exams and you couldn't clear NID. I have seen students nowadays, उनको ऐसा लगता है कि NID ही बेस्ट कॉलेज है, तो NID क्रैक करो या तो डिजाइन मत करो. दिस इज देयर चॉइसेस. तो मैं उनको बोलता हूँ कि अरे NID का मतलब ऑलरेडी देयर आर वेरी लेस नंबर ऑफ सीट्स. उसमें भी उनका क्या सिलेक्शन क्राइटेरिया होगा, नोबडी नोज, एंड देयर आर वेरी स्लिम चांसेस ऑफ क्लियरिंग दैट कॉलेज. बट उसकी वजह से करियर पे कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना इज नॉट वाइज. तो आई ऑलवेज टेल देम दैट देयर आर, एंड स्पेशली इन टुडेज टाइम, अभी तो बहुत ज़्यादा कॉलेजेस हो गए. तो इफ़ यू रियली वांट टू परस्यू डिज़ाइन, तो जाओ डिज़ाइन एजुकेशन लो और वहाँ पे काम करके फिर फाड़ दो. बहुत सारे प्राइवेट कॉलेजेस भी है जो इक्वल या प्रोबेबली NID से ज़्यादा ही अपॉर्चुनिटीज प्रोवाइड करती है, बिकॉज दे आर वेरी डेस्परेट टू हेल्प स्टूडेंट्स एंड create a name for themselves. तो ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. So yeah, that is very
Yeah.
nice to learn from your journey.
See, the problem is that we have given NID so much credit for its legacy and for what they did back in 1960s or 50s when they started,
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
and the fact that they were the OG design college of India. But
True.
it's 2022 now.
Yeah.
Over the last 20 years, so many colleges have come up. So many people have uh, found newer ways of teaching, and of course, newer facilities, newer technology has come in. I honestly feel that in today's time, like you said, the mentality, if it's NID or nothing, I think that's just straight stupid.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
because that's like you're boxing yourself into one sort of college or one sort of approach. And that's the
Yes.
opposite of why you should do design, which is you need to get out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Every college has certain strengths, every college has a certain sort of weakness. I feel NID's strength is alumni network, or basically the legacy that it has built, but its weakness is exactly the same. The legacy it has built, it is still a
Yeah.
50, 60-year-old college, and that
Yes.
shows in the work. I by no means I'm saying it's bad work. I just feel like there are much more modern colleges out there which are a lot more relevant today
Mm-hmm.
than maybe pretty much exactly what NID was maybe 20 years ago.
True, true, true. So that perfectly makes sense. So if students are listening to this, please take this seriously. And
Or not. I mean, also it's just one guy with his opinions.
no, no, no. At least there are two guys, no? So I am also agreeing to this. So it's okay.
Confirmed now. We have two guys. I feel like credit given where credit is due, and NID has done a lot for the country and for design in general. But that's kind of it.
Yeah.
That's it. If students today are looking, I think they should look towards what do they want to do after they graduate 5 years from now,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
So this industry moves really quickly, and yeah, if you're just stuck in that mindset that it's one college and nothing else, then you're
Then
already
it's,
losing the game.
yeah. See, most of the Indian kids, especially हमारा जनरेशन जो है 2010, जब डिज़ाइन का अवेयरनेस ही नहीं है, तो ना बहुत लेट फिगर आउट करते हैं कि हाँ, डिज़ाइन इज समथिंग विच आई वांट टू परस्यू. लाइक जेन्युइनली दिस इज समथिंग विच आई फील पैशन अबाउट इट, तो यही मुझे करना है. But in your 12th only, you decided to pursue design as career. And not only that, you selected a course which was like a combination of bachelor's plus master's. So you kind of committed your future to design at such an early age. तो वो thought process क्या था? How did you have so much of clarity back then?
I think that's an interesting question. Looking back, I'd say half of it was just guesswork, tukka, basically gambling with my own life. But the other half was an educated sort of approach in the sense that I visited
Hmm.
all these colleges, I interviewed at all these colleges, I spoke to these guys, showed my work, talked to them, asked
Hmm.
them questions. A lot of people don't do that in interviews. And again, I feel a bit dated because I don't know what the getting into college process is now. But
Hmm.
mere time mein, I had to interview for MIT, for Simbi, for Shrishti, for DSK, which is where I went, and every college basically. And during that interview process, not many people know that you can also ask questions. That is a conversation. It has to be a two-way street. Not
Hmm.
obviously, don't ask more questions than they are. Like you're not interviewing them, but if you have questions or concerns, or basically if you have a really strong inclination to go to a college, might as well
Hmm.
get all your boxes checked before entering, and then paying the fee, and then realizing this is not for you. I did
Right.
that. I was very certain as to what are they providing, who's the faculty, what courses are going to happen, And some of this is obviously in today's times, you can find them on the internet, on their websites. 2010, man, websites looked like shit back then. And half of them did not work. Design colleges, which are supposed to have good design, उनकी websites इतनी गंदी थी उस time में.
Yeah, yeah.
And that made me feel like, यार ये तो बहुत ही developed field नहीं है. This is
फर्स्ट
just
ऑफ ऑल
एक
घर
छोटे से
में मोबाइल में इंटरनेट नहीं था, यू हैड टू गो टू साइबर कैफे, पे देम जस्ट टू सिट देयर फॉर 1 आवर, उसमें भी इंटरनेट स्लो रहेगा। या
यहाँ पर साइट नहीं खुल रही है और मैं अपना फ्यूचर डिसाइड कर रहा हूँ उस पर. तो
ट्रू ट्रू।
basically I think like I would be lying if I say कि मुझे सब clear था and this is the path I wanted to go to, but half of it was really just being laser focused on 4 or 5 colleges. These are my options. I'm going to visit them. I'm going to look at the facilities. I'm going to look at their alumni, look at what kind of companies they get. And of course, some of it is also, from the initial research I did, the people I reached out to, people who went to NID. There's a couple of people. One guy had a really good rank in NID. And back then, rank was everything, right? Like, ki tu
I know.
kitna top par hai. And now that I've graduated and I'm in the industry, I'm like, ये तो बहुत ही पिछड़ा हुआ
Yeah,
approach
mentality.
था.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
doesn't matter at all.
so but also like when you speak to them, they'll talk about like what is good in their college, what is not. Almost everybody talks honestly when they're in colleges. Nobody has sort of कोई ऐसे छुपाता नहीं है कि ये बहुत ही मस्त जगह है, but when you go there it's bakwas. Like everybody talks about the bad shit also. That's what
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
observed. Everybody in colleges are like सोच समझ के आना, मेरे college में बहुत खराब है. Which is something I really value. If people are more honest and candid about their experience, then it helps everybody. So mix of that with half of that guessing work and somehow just landed the right fit. I think it's all about the fit for me. I'm by no means I'm saying that the college didn't have its weaknesses. बहुत weaknesses थी. बहुत बारी मुझे ऐसा लगा कि मैं गलत college में हूँ. But I think it was the right fit. It was the right environment for me. जहाँ पर I was just growing every year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And that interaction, it makes so much sense when I look back. And like when you interact with seniors and when you interact with your own friends over there who are coming for the studio test and all, there only you will understand the entire vibe or the future, what's going to be there if you choose this discipline or this career. So I think that's the first clue. If you are an aspiring student, कि अगर आप वहाँ पे जाते हो और वो सब आपको अच्छा लगता है, and if you imagine yourself doing this for rest of your life, that is the biggest clue that okay, fine, this is something for you and you should pursue that. Awesome, Matt. I completely agree with what you are saying. So tell me something, during this phase of DSK, कहाँ कहाँ पे internships किए थे या कहाँ कहाँ पे collaborative projects किए, and do you remember any of the specific project जहाँ पे you thought कि अभी when you look back you think कि ये एक pivotal moment था, ये project या ये collaboration या internship इसने मेरे लिए एक path carve कर दिया था?
So DSK में one of the best things was कि every student before they finish their degree or like 5-year course, they had to do at least 1 year of internship. And the way you structure is कि third year के बाद you have to do a 6 months internship, and in your final year, fifth year के बाद you have to do a 6 month internship. Or
Wow.
that 6 months is actually your credits, basically एक semester जो तुम्हारी industry professional or the company that you go to, they will mark or give the marks for that.
Very
So you
interesting.
have to do it. 2 internships were mandatory. I got lucky because we had a college collaboration with Godrej, and their innovation team was basically working with our college to design. I
Awesome.
think it was some sort of like a power backup solution, sort of like a inverter battery combo, but like a lifestyle version of it. Like if you were to actually celebrate that, because those things look very engineering and boxy and whatnot. Like you're not supposed to touch it. So it was a long project. Basically, long projects are structured in a way that you have 2 seniors and 2 or 3 juniors. It's like if you're in third year, you'll be working with seniors from fifth year. When you basically become a fifth year student, you're the team leader and you work with third years. And also the same. So we have 4 of those. So also the same happens when you are in fourth year. You're the leader. You work with third years. And also there's
Oh,
a project with fifth years when you're in fourth year.
wow. This
So
is very
you
interesting.
get to
Okay.
be team members or like let's say not leaders 2 times to basically to see how the thing works. And then when you get to your senior years in fourth and fifth year, you get to work with juniors from third year 2 times. And all of these are industry collaborations. Like I'm just looking back, we had design it. I worked on a design it project. I worked on there's a studio in Portugal called Pedro Gomes. that that project was in my fourth year. Then Godrej was one of the projects. Uh, and there's a company, there's a design company in Chennai called Visa V,
Okay.
who basically did a lot of work for cookware and sort of
Hmm.
Butterfly is one of the bigger companies that they worked on, which is uh, a competitor to Hawkins, and these pressure cookers and all that. These experiences like not only teach you how to design and deliver design, but also how to work in a team, how to lead a team. And of course, these are just trailers to what might come when we actually enter the industry. When you have to work with everybody, sort of
Hmm.
figure out
Correct.
किसका strength किस चीज में है, how to convince people to go for your design, or how to actually down select when you have five concepts, without actually pissing off your whole team, which is also another challenge. Clients are involved, colleges
Hmm.
involved, different stakeholders, and all that. So
Yeah.
it did feel like a real world design problem, and it is a real world design problem
Yeah.
because these solutions, some of them actually are under confidentiality agreements, so you can't really talk about them. My friends, a lot of my friends, their designs actually got picked, and then the companies would then go on to manufacture
Very
them.
cool.
So,
Okay.
so this is not just an academic exercise. Like all of the designs, let's say most of them were very valuable to the companies that they were working with. Um, but to answer your second question, which is what was that turning point, or was the sort of awakening? In my third year, I interned at a company called Steelcase, which is the biggest office furniture manufacturing company in the world. I got to go to Hong Kong, and I was there for 6 months, basically
Wow.
very close to China and Shenzhen. That means factories are basically at your arm's reach.
Hmm.
Um, I remember going with my 3 years of design knowledge. I was a good sketcher and somewhat okay in 3D, not by no means killing it. Just sketching wise, I was kind of like really confident about my skill. So it was the first week I had a design brief. I sketched like, I don't know, like 30 different concepts, put like two big boards, and walked my basically arranged the whole team, told them that, yo, I'm done with the work. I have a few concepts to show you. Do you want to come review? It was a piece of furniture, kind of like a chair. Um, and I thought like most of my ideas did hit upon like what needed to be solved and all that. I was pretty confident that this is it. So I walked them through all the sketches. I was like, this concept, that concept, what is good and bad, and just the whole board. Spoke for like 30 minutes straight, and I was like, I'm killing it, yo. This is first week on internship, all the way from India, first time in Hong
Okay.
Kong. Nailed it, मजा ही आ गया. तो फिर मैं दूसरी तरफ देखा मेरे creative director and my mentor, who's basically the lead or senior designer there. They're just looking at the board and looking at me, and so I was like, do you want me to explain again? They're like, no, 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 I get what you're saying, but what I don't get is how are any of these sketches going to solve my problem? In my head, I'm like, इनको समझ नहीं आया यार, या तो मेरा accent है, या तो मैं ठीक तरह से explain नहीं कर पा रहा, या कोई इंडस्ट्री में पहली बार ही आया तो शायद ये कोई दूसरी लैंग्वेज बोलते होंगे, मुझे I had no idea. So turns out, so he's like, Sushant, I get these sketches, like you've done 30 sketches, but at the end of the day, these are just sketches. You're designing a chair. The only function that a chair has is to for a human to sit on it, to allow a human to sit on it. I can't
Hmm.
sit on your sketches, so I don't know if any of these sketches work or not work. They're all equal to me. It doesn't make any sort of sense to review these drawings because I can't test them out. So in
Yeah.
my head, I'm like, तो मैं मतलब मैंने पूरा week sketching जो करी उसका क्या? So what happened was that I then was so confused. I spoke to my senior designer, who's sort of like my mentor buddy, really cool guy. I spoke to Peter, and he said, "Ki, so now it's okay. Like bad reviews happen, and it's not against you. Don't take it personally. What he's trying to say is like you should build a chair." I was like,
Hmm.
"But मैं एक हफ्ते मतलब अभी आया हूँ हांगकांग, लैंग्वेज भी नहीं आता मुझे, चेयर कहाँ से बनाऊँ मैं?"
Uh,
So then over the next 5 months, it was basically this whole struggle of actually going to China, visiting their factories, speaking to the right people, trying to get my
wow.
chair designs first ideated and built in that rough sort of lakdi ki kursiyan, then going into CNC milling and getting into a higher fidelity so that we could test things, and actually going through the design process of do something, it fails, fix it, try again, it fails, fix it, make it better, and so on, like the typical design process.
True.
That's something that I learned over there, and I realized, dude, I could be the best sketcher, I could be the best 3D person, but if I can't actually solve a problem, I am pretty much nothing. I'm just a good artist, and I don't want to be that. And that was my
Mm.
sort of those 5 months or just 6 months felt like such a challenge, because first time outside the country, first time in a industry, or let's say in a company, and then having to build something, go to different country in China to basically, meet new people who don't speak the language, get parts delivered to you. I'm like, I'm just a 20-year-old guy. Actually, I turned 21 in Hong Kong. It's like, यार मजा नहीं आ रहा, ये
बहुत
तो बहुत
young.
ज्यादा स्ट्रेसफुल हो गया. But
I can totally imagine.
hindsight, that was the most growth I had right after my third year. When I came back, I was a changed person. I didn't want to sketch anymore. I just wanted to do design, like
Wow.
actual problem solving.
Actual problem solving, and that is where most of the people get it wrong, that they just stick to their sketchbooks, like they'll do fancy sketches, fancy renders, and there's very less
I
thought
was that guy.
given. Actually,
I just
this
said
are
I was that guy.
actually, even I used to be that guy for a very long time, very honestly. So I used to only make beautiful looking renders and things like that. And very late in my career, I realized, especially I work with motorcycles, right? It's functionality first, and then the styling comes like very later, right? So मुझे जब वो realize हुआ कि functionality बहुत ज़्यादा important है. We are not artists, we are not what do they call it, a stylist, just to aesthetically make the product look beautiful. The functionality, the entire problem, the solution matters in the end. And I think that, I would say, you realized it very early in your career when you were in college only, so that's a really good thing. Okay, I was going to ask you this later, but I'll ask you now because there is a context. So is that why you started learning 3D?
I think a part of it was just communication. I wanted to make sure that my intent or my thoughts are communicated visually to the highest fidelity, and I feel 3D and rendering are the highest fidelity right now. Obviously,
Hmm.
before actually making something and making mockups and all that,
True.
I do feel like mockups are very representative of if you want to test out form, proportions, how you hold something, interact with
Hmm.
something. But I do feel like sketches only get to a certain extent. But when you put materials and lighting and actually look at the surfaces, sort of bend light around it, so it was all that to say it's very focused on communication. And I just want to make sure that when I show my sketches or when I talk about my design, there's not any gaps or loops that people have to imagine for themselves. Like I just
Hmm.
wanted to just show that this
Correct.
is it, this is exactly what I want. Yeah.
Correct. Actually, when you do sketches, there is little bit of confusion about what's going to happen in other views. What will be the backside of the sketch which you are showing. But when it comes to 3D, there is very less amount of cheating which you can do. Right? You'll have to make it beautiful, or they will have to make it functional from every corner. So there is no cheating, and also it once you create that 3D, then it becomes much easier to communicate your ideas, visualize it in different views. So it's all very advantageous. So which
Yeah.
brings me to the question: even in today design colleges, there's a lot of focus on sketching, and then there is very less emphasis given on the 3D skills of the students. Do you feel 3D is kind of a mandatory or kind of a very important thing in a designer's life?
I'd say 100%. I feel almost like sketching is not that important, especially with this new wave of technology like AI and stuff. You can get
True.
pretty not realistic, but let's say representative results of what you're thinking. But 3D is something that you need to make to get stuff manufactured, to get yourself into that last phase of design, which is building things. You can
Yeah.
3D print your 3D models. You can send it to vendors in China who can give you a quote. It's also like indicative of what manufacturing processes you'd be using. So when
Mm.
you're into 3D, it's not just shapes and forms. You have to make some really educated decisions on how the stuff will be manufactured, what textures and materials need to be placed. Also, what are the post processing, including like paint or any finishes or
Mm.
things like that. Like
True, true.
all that needs to be, and it's all of that is hard in sketching or sort of any other medium. And
Mm.
in fact, like 3D is sort of a very malleable medium. You can keep changing it.
Yeah.
When you make a fully finished product or a mock-up, which is a very high fidelity mock-up, it's hard to change it, right?
Mm.
So usually the process goes from sketching to something a little bit more malleable and flexible, which is 3D. and that is also combined with 3D printing, or sort of the rough prototyping phase, rapid prototyping, whatever you want to call it. Some
Hmm.
people like to really have another level of rough prototyping, which is cardboard and paper and clay. I think that
Awesome.
used to be the thing maybe like 10 years ago, but now
Hmm.
with 3D printing,
3D
that's an
printing.
obvious choice. Like, you do this, you
Yeah.
have 3D printing. But I still feel like for larger stuff, for things that are maybe easier to build with cardboard and mount board, people should do that for proportion's sake. But 3D printing is king right now. So 3D skills and what you can 3D print, that goes hand in hand from a technical standpoint. From a design standpoint, I think 3D allows you to explore surfaces, forms, shapes, details, chamfers, radiuses that you just cannot do in any other
Hmm.
medium. You. I mean, I'd argue and say that even clay modeling and things are not as. Firstly, it's expensive and time consuming to do a full blown clay
True,
model.
true.
Um, but again, 3D is such a malleable tool that you can use it for whatever you want. You can do it for quick studies, you can do it for finished final tooling, so it's, I mean, I feel like it's almost a given that you have to do 3D. And you're right, not many colleges focus on that, and I seriously don't know why.
For sure. It's changing slowly. I definitely see this growing importance of 3D.
I
Yeah.
do want to add to that and say that I don't think basic cuts it right now. If you are graduating, you've done 4 years of study, put yourself next to the global market. Like, if you're a student who's just done 4 years of study, look at Behance, look at these Instagram pages, and see where you're at. And by
Hmm.
no means you have to be the next level rendering artist or a high level of 3D or whatnot, because you can learn on the job.
Yeah.
But if you fall below average compared to what you see on Behance, the kind of projects that get featured on Instagram, the kind of crazy 3D modeling that a lot of students are doing, like if in today's time you're only doing like Copic marker renders, you're going to struggle to find a company that still values it. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's going to be impossible. It's people have moved on, is what I'm saying.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'd say, like, have an eye towards where the industry is headed, match your skill level to that.
True, true. This is the only way to move forward. Like, uh, as in, you'll have to get along with the changing technology. Like, I used to be this person who would think very old school, sketching is the only thing and all that. But through my experience, I have learned the sooner you get, used to these developing technologies, it's going to be very, very easier and faster for you to grow. And nowadays, 3D, I think it has already become like a benchmark. Everybody is doing that. Now people are slowly developing their skills into AI portals. Like there is DALI, there is Midjourney, there is so many other stuff. It's Com, where you can just sketch and side by side you are seeing the 3D rendering of it. So all that, I think in your free time, keep exploring that. That is gonna help you. That is gonna help you grow faster, I would say. What you said about Behance was very interesting. That over there, because Behance is such a wonderful platform where global talent pool is there, right? So it gets very easier for you to compare and see yourself where exactly you are standing with the global crowd. So tell me something that like before 10 years, the design skills in India used to be little poor compared to the global standards, right? But now with this, but like overdose of social media and things which are happening all around the globe, people are excelling in every skills, and you being one of them who have started from India but now working in USA. So do you think now India is at the same level, or Indian designers are now at par with the global designers from developed countries?
I think that's an interesting question. There's always going to be some discrepancy between what Indian students bring to the table versus what a developed market brings to the table.
Oh,
So, being
really?
in the US, I
Okay.
feel like if you are studying in Europe, if you're studying in USA, you have a very mature industry here, in the sense that there's design studios, there's an ecosystem of companies that really value design and put design first. Do not to be cliche, but companies like Apple and more recently Logi, and to an extent maybe Google, also are very design focused, or at least they
Hmm.
value design to a very high level now than they used to maybe like 10 years ago. I think
Sure.
Apple's always been sort of design driven. Anyway, all that to say that if you're in the area, in the ecosystem, in the space, in the industry, you're going to have so much influence from these companies, right? But India has never really had a design first approach. In fact, it is in fact very far from it. because obviously we're not in the luxury of deciding on the right chamfers and fillets. अरे घर में पानी नहीं आ रहा तो मैं फिर carbonated water का branding क्यों करूं? You know what I mean?
Very
Like the
true.
reality
Yeah.
in India is very like basic needs are not met. तो ऐसा
Still,
मैं
we are
material
not
को
beyond the survival stage. There's like a lot of population are struggling with the basics. Yeah.
एग्जैक्टली एंड तो मार्केट वैसी ही चलती है ना, वट एवर इज इन नीड पीपल आर गोइंग टू डू दैट, डिजाइन स्टूडियोज आर गोइंग टू डिलीवर दैट। तो बहुत सारे
Correct.
डिजाइन स्टूडियोज इन द पास्ट वर वेरी इंजीनियरिंग हैवी। मेरी ग्रोइंग अप भी ऐसी थी, वी नॉट एक्सपोज टू लेट्स से ग्रेट डिजाइन, आई थिंक वी आर एक्सपोज टू ग्रेट आर्ट एंड क्राफ्ट व्हिच इज आई
Yes.
स्टिल वैल्यू व्हाट इंडिया brings to the table in terms of both those things. And more recently in graphic design and branding, I think there's some really cool stuff. We have a history in small businesses branding themselves. You've seen those posters, you've seen those trucks, and the sort of
Yeah.
paintings that go on those big orange trucks. Like we have a history of doing expressing ourselves, but it's not done with a user in mind. It's done with expression in mind, and what expression is basically just artistry.
Artistry. Yeah.
When you focus on users, when you focus on solving problems, that's then design. I'm not undermining what India has done. Like the kind of IT support, the kind of software development we bring to the table, that's unmatched for people around here in Microsoft, Google. Half of those guys are Indians. There's a reason for that. We're bloody
True.
damn good at it, right?
Yeah. For
So
sure.
there's things that we're really good at. Design, unfortunately, is still in its infancy, and I think it's going to get better as the world gets global. Pandemic has sort of helped that, I feel, in a way. Everybody moved to their homes, but because they're at homes, they're on the internet, right? And internet is the portal to the whole world.
Yeah.
And once you get connected to the whole world, once you start living the life of what an American kid would do, or what an European kid would do, or what somebody from Hong Kong or Korea does, I think we're in the right sort of path. The discussion we are having,
Yeah. Yeah.
the sort of idea of bringing people together, sort of the idea of sharing knowledge and expertise. I think all of this is happening more and more, and COVID also has sort of made us get involved in this virtual space a lot more. Giving
True.
back has become a big thing now. New
Yeah.
apps like a Clubhouse and all that have come up and also gone. But the fact that people are having more conversations, that
Yes.
itself is a huge, huge bonus.
Yes.
So right on the right track, but historically we are underprivileged when it comes to design.
And there is a long way to go there, probably. We are on the right path, but then there is still a gap.
Like at the end of the day, you and I both know it's an individual's approach, right? Like I know people who haven't done college and they've made carved out a way for themselves. So it doesn't
True.
matter which country you're from or what college you're from.
Yeah, yeah.
Just be a global open-minded citizen, and yeah, you'll be fine. That's not to say that just because the Indian market is bad, you're going to be
Mm.
bad, you
No,
know.
that's very rightly said. Now that with the social media and remote working scenario and all that, efficient working scenario, so borders are kind of disappearing. Like I know many freelancers, like friends of mine, who are working with clients from USA, China, someone from Australia, and everything is working very seamlessly. So that is a very wonderful scenario to see. Tell me something that because this has been asked by one of my followers on Instagram. So, like he got an opportunity to work in a company which is based in San Francisco. Okay, if I'm not wrong, San Francisco only. Okay, so somewhere in California, basically. Okay, and then this guy already has a job in India, which is paying him decent. He's close to family and stuff like that. He was asking me that is it with this very efficient remote working scenario, should he consider moving all the way to USA just to work there, or he should stay here and find out remote opportunities which will help him to work for the same client but remotely staying in India? Do you see, like, what would be your recommendation for this?
I feel like every time I've traveled to somewhere, and worked like so. Just for context, previously I've worked in Hong Kong. Then after that, I moved to Austria for 6 months, and then in the US. So basically, having a taste of like each continent. Just a little, I'm not saying like I'm well versed in all this. It's just tasting a little bit of these different
Yes,
sides of the world
yes.
has been super beneficial because it's not just the design that I'm picking up or like the skills that I'm picking up. It's more the culture, the uh, being in discomfort helps me a lot because that builds my, I guess, mental capacity. It sort of like grows my muscles and people skills and just being
True.
okay with discomfort, being okay with uncertainty. When you're on a visa, there's always that stress. Like how you always have a timed period of being in a country or somewhere else. um, what I'm trying to say is that if your friend is looking to, or if that person is looking to build uh, a deeper understanding of people and cultures, it's going to be very, very, very beneficial, and that then can translate into design skills, because ultimately, what is design? Understanding people's needs, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say, like, if you're in a field that really does not need people's expertise, or like doesn't need you to be speaking to people, for example, if you're designing servers, server rooms, or machines that no human interacts with, like a small part of a system that no human is going to see. If that's what you're doing, you don't need to be out there. Just wherever you are, just design the best
Hmm.
machine possible.
Wow,
If
very
you're
nice.
designing for people, uh, be around people, meet new people, meet more
Hmm.
people, learn from different cultures, work with different people. I also am a big fan of being, like I said, uncomfortable, because that is going to lead to growth. So if that person is looking for growth, I'd say take the challenge up. You're going to be away from your family, and it is hard, man. Like my family, we have grown up in India for 20 plus years, and to
Hmm.
come here now saying goodbye to my friends, and my dad is back home, like it's just, and I haven't seen them for a year and a half now. Also with the whole visa crisis right now, I don't know when I'm going to go back. It is hard, so it is uncomfortable, it is stressful, but that's part of life. Like that leads to growth. I find that I'm becoming stronger when it comes to mental, what I can
Hmm.
take emotionally. I feel like I've built. I mean, again, I do break down sometimes. I do feel like, shit, man, I need to go back home. This is too much. पूरी life India में थी, अब यहाँ मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ?
Hmm.
Sometimes those thoughts come, but when I zoom out a little bit, I'm like, shit, man, मैं यूएस में हूँ. मैं इंडिया में पढ़ के यूएस में chill कर रहा हूँ, भाई.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
I
a
think
very
it's a mix of that. Like if that
correct.
person is looking for growth and challenge, come here, dude. Spend a couple of years, go back, or feel it out. Take up the challenge. If you're really, hey, have a family, you're older, don't want to have that much of a change.
Hmm.
Relax. This you're not losing the race. You
True.
That's a good decision. I
Yeah.
respect any of that. Anybody would respect that.
Actually, I completely agree with that, and this is what precisely I told him, like my opinion. Now that we are talking about, working in other country and things like that, tell us more about your job, like what kind of work you are doing there.
Yeah, so currently I am in Seattle. I actually just started working at a company, design consultancy called Teague. Teague is actually one of the oldest design consultancies in the world. They've been around for almost 100 years, so 90 plus years right now.
Wow.
They're so so basically the founder of Teague, Mr. Teague, he's known for designing the first Kodak cameras. Those were made of like wood and all that stuff, and he's been designing since like 1920s. Unfortunately,
Wow.
he's no more, but the company still exists and very strong. My day job really just is designing cool stuff. We are in a lot of different spaces and fields. One of the bigger ones being aviation. Teague has a
Wow.
special relationship with Boeing, so everything Boeing comes from Teague. There's because of that aviation and mobility side. There's a lot of projects that fall uh, in that space where you have trains, mobility like scooters and bikes, things like even outer space travel. That's a new one. That's a capability that we're working on. um, and then on the other side, there's also consumer tech stuff. So that means taking newer technology like AR and VR, bringing that to more human product form. Stuff like we've done stuff for Nickelodeon, Disney.
Wow.
Few of our clients would also include Logitech, Microsoft. So, and it's a full fledged
Design
multidisciplinary
studio.
industry. Yeah, so you'll have, sorry, yeah, design studio. So you'll have basically not only industrial designers. You'll have we have interaction designers, researchers. Um, on the aviation side, we have like technical designers who build things, prototype specialists. There's VR specialist as well, who actually helps build
Hmm.
rooms where you can project stuff and actually
Wow.
experience a space. um, Yeah, so all that to say that we do a bunch of stuff. It's really hard to categorize the kind of stuff we do. Being a consultant, like that's the fun part. You have so many clients with different problems would come to you, and every 2 to 3 months you'd be working on a different project. You never know what's going to come
Yeah.
next, and that's the exciting part.
Wow. So basically, you'll be moved to different projects every now and then. So that's going to give you different opportunities to learn new things, and that's very exciting, man. That you have some VR specialists. Like that is becoming the next big thing. So awesome.
That's one thing eventually that I am super interested in, which eventually I'll probably push the VR specialist to teach me
Oh.
some of those tricks. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Even I am trying to learn different platforms. How long have you been working in the industry now? It's been what,
Uh,
7 8 years?
It's actually been only 4.5 years, plus
Four
some
and a half years.
internship type. So 4 years of actual practice plus 1 year of internship is, I guess that's 5 years. I used to be at a company called Astro Studios. Astro is in the Bay Area, and they're pretty big in the consumer tech space. All their clients are big names: Google, Microsoft, you name it. Um,
Wow.
they're actually very well known for designing the Xbox 360 back in the days. So yeah, because of
Wow.
that, they have a very strong foothold in gaming and just consumer technology in general. So I was there for a
Awesome.
few years, and I did freelance for a few years as well. And while I
Hmm.
was freelancing, again, like I worked with another studio in Sweden called Above. They also do like amazing work. Above is awesome. And we can even leave links to all these places in the YouTube
Sure.
video.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I'll do that.
but and while I was freelancing, I did some stuff for Adobe. I did some stuff for smaller companies in both audio as well as consumer spaces. Yeah, I've kind of been all over the place, man. It's just been a wild ride.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like jumping around on different projects. Like it feels like it's my thing now.
That's super crazy because just in 4 years of experience, you have visited so many countries and you have experienced so many cultures. So
Yeah,
that is super cool.
it blows my
Uh,
mind, man. I find that to be a crazy. So I've never thought that I'd be doing this. I'm like super humbled, excited, also equally nervous that कर क्या रहा हूँ मैं अपनी लाइफ के साथ यार मैं कहाँ मतलब sometimes I'm like oh shit मैं कहाँ पहुँच गया हूँ and other times I'm like भाई इतनी मेहनत करी है अब now I'm getting to see some results.
Wow, awesome. So tell me that because you mentioned freelancing, तो अभी क्या हो गया है ना कि many students by choice or by situation they are doing freelance. तो but उनके सर पे ना हमेशा एक एंजाइटी रहती है कि बिकॉज इट्स नॉट अ कॉपरेट 9 to 5 जॉब, तो उनको वो हमेशा फ्यूचर की एंजाइटी रहती है कि ये ऐसा कब तक चलेगा, इसमें ग्रोथ क्या होगी. व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दैट?
Freelance is great if you are, let's say, you want to have a flexible schedule. It's also like कुछ लोगों को flexible भी नहीं होता, मतलब कुछ लोग freelance में भी 8 घंटे फंस जाते हैं. But more or less it's like you work on your own terms. If you're doing freelance right, that's the idea, that you work on your own terms. बट स्ट्रेट आउट ऑफ कॉलेज अगर कोई फ्रीलांस कर रहा है ना, तो वो मुझे काफ़ी रिस्की लगता है अनलेस तुम्हारा स्किल बहुत ही हाई लेवल है.
हम्म.
Which again, there's a caveat, there's a little bit of a asterisk that I'll put on that, which I'll get back to later. अगर तुम्हारा स्किल बहुत हाई लेवल है जो तुम डिलीवर कर सकते हो अपने whatever you have promised, then it's great. Do that. It's a great way of making money, great way of getting your portfolio built up, getting actual professional experience. The reason I put asterisk on that is अगर तुम्हारा level बहुत ज़्यादा high है, it
हम्म.
shouldn't be a problem for you to get a job. And
Yeah.
I any day would prefer as a starting designer to get the experience in the industry. There are people with 10, 20, 30 years of industry who can teach you so much in your first year. After that, when you go to do freelance, you'll be a king. You'll firstly be more
Correct.
value. You'll understand the ins and outs of design. And again, this is not like कि एक साल में तुम सब सीख जाओगे. But what I'm trying to say is कि get some experience first, learn from other people, absorb a lot more before you deploy. A lot of people just want to
हम्म.
deploy because 4 to 5 years of design studies are actually very stressful, and it really gets देता है बंदे को काफी अच्छी तरह से. So all people want to do is just design cool shit after that.
Yeah.
तो तो naturally तुम अपना काम डालते हो online, somebody reaches out कि और मुझे design चाहिए, maybe friends, family or somebody from Indian reaches out. You take on that job, but वो पहला job होता है ever. You never know कि what the industry expects तुम्हें क्या करना चाहिए. So you basically have tons of
हम्म.
questions. So to avoid that loop, or avoid the strong chance that you're going to fail, get the education first. And education doesn't stop after college. So get into
Hmm.
a company, do an internship, whatever, get a job, first job, spend 2 3 years, then decide कि job करनी है या freelance करना है. I feel
Hmm.
I feel Ganda job will also teach you a lot more than just freelancing. And again, but big sort of asterisks, different people work differently, so this might not apply to all. That if it clicks, if it works, it works. Like I enjoyed my time freelancing. During COVID time, I went back home. I was waiting for my visa for a year and a half. That's the time, one of
Okay.
my most productive times ever. Like I worked with a lot of people, worked on projects that I'm super passionate about, worked at my own time, which is great. Uh, got paid for, from my understanding, a fair value that I deserved. And it was just good times all around. Like so,
Awesome.
yeah, I'd say. But all that after doing a year and a half plus internship to understand what is expected.
Hmm. And during this phase of COVID, you did a lot of freelance projects. How did you get those projects, or how did you approach those people from the industry? What was your approach?
Yeah, a couple of projects were from ex-colleagues. Somebody had moved to like I mentioned above. So somebody had moved from Astro to above, and they reached out for help. And another project was again a similar story, an ex-colleague who had gone to a different company. The other 4 or 5 projects that I did during that span of time, they're not even word of mouth. They just reached out to me. I had a conversation with them. And so there's a little bit of a story to that as well. Like throughout college or maybe later years of college, I tried to build my online presence. I started posting on Behance, Instagram. uh,
This was which year?
I'd
Like
say
four,
maybe
five
like,
years back?
yeah, final years of college. So that's 2017 is when I started doing it. And over the
Mm-hmm.
next 3 years, I really just started focusing on it. So from 2018 19, I actually got serious about posting on Behance and Instagram. And that was super
Awesome.
helpful because that not only is a great way to practice, it also helps build some sort of audience and voice in the space.
Yes.
I give credit to, those 4 or 5 projects I'm talking about. I give credit to the brand building side of putting my work online. That actually helped me land those projects.
Awesome. So that brings me to a very exciting question. Like designers, they inherently have this, insecure trait कि उनको लगता है कि मैं अपना काम अगर सोशल मीडिया पे डालूंगा तो कोई आइडिया चुरा लेगा या something like that. So, but I was just reading this book, Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. So that talks about all this, like how showing your work, or what you precisely said, creating that brand for yourself on social media, how that helps. Tell me, throw some light on that how important is showing your work or putting your work online regularly?
I might be biased, but I think it is super important. I've been doing that for a long time. It is important because it teaches you more about yourself than anything else. It teaches you how to tell stories. It teaches you how to write, how to communicate with an audience that you don't know. It tells you how to speak to strangers, how to build a community, how to respond to messages, how to write emails, how to post in a
Awesome.
space where there is industry members. And looking back now, I have what I mean, more than 20,000 followers, and that is a superpower because I now know what is going to visually attract someone. In design, that is super
True.
valuable. Not saying that I'm doing
Wow.
like more likes means good design, more likes means good visual, and that is a big superpower. I can quickly test something on my Instagram or social media, figure out like this image versus that image, which gets more likes, and then the visual forms and visuals are a huge part of design. And I feel like doing all that now, I am a designer which has access to a lot of eyes, which includes designers' eyes, which includes normal people, general audience, potential customers, target audience, whatever, potential senior stakeholders, who actually are decision makers. So all that to say, when I zoom out a little bit, like I feel like the reasons to post online are a lot more beneficial than the small cons which you mentioned earlier on, which is somebody ripping off your design, or somebody hating on your work. That's also another one. People are a little bit conscious of what they put online because of these two big reasons. If you only focus on the negative parts, you're basically putting a blanket on all the positive things that I just mentioned.
Awesome, awesome. That is very well articulated, and coming from a person who is killing on social media, that is a big validation. No, awesome, man. So yeah, actually, I want to praise your Instagram profile. It's very beautiful, and the kind of tutorials you posted there for sketching, rendering, and things like that. It's super important, super helpful. That seeking discomfort, how important is that? I took this leap of faith, you can call, and then I started posting my work online. I got some traction, I got one idea, I started a YouTube channel. And now when people are responding to that content, message comes from a random aspiring student that this podcast is helping them, this tutorial is helping them, I understand the value of impact that has been created with the social media. And also you are able to contribute back to the community, and also it kind of sort of develops your own identity on social media. So as you precisely mentioned, that now you have a community of, let's say, 24 25K followers, where you can validate some kind of a design, or you can pre-test some kind of a idea before going to full-fledged. So all that are like, there are two, actually, when I, like, you beautifully articulated it, there are so many pros of just putting your work online. And yeah, man, awesome. So that brings me to one of the final questions. Now that you already mentioned that you're working on something called as Young Designers of India, is that right?
Young Designers India, yeah.
Young Designers India, YDI. So beautiful page, beautiful initiative. So please tell everyone more about that. What is the vision? What is the idea behind it?
Yeah, Young Designers India, in a nutshell, is basically a community of designers from India or Indian origin. We have members living basically all around the world with varied experiences. The young is just sort of, you don't have to be young. You can be young at heart, because we have
Of
people
course.
with like 10 to 20 years of experience as well as people who are just looking to get into design. We make sure that the community is self-sustaining in the sense that there's equal parts people who need help or need support in their life or in their design journeys, not life, but not promising life support, but design journeys. And then the other half is people who are at that stage who can give back, and that might be somebody who's just a student who might be 1 year senior to you, who's just figured out
Mhm.
what it takes to go through year one, for somebody who doesn't know what year one would be like. Anyway, so this space, we started this in March of 2020, basically when lockdown went full force. That's when
Wow.
we sort of, it was me toying around with the idea of having a space for Indian designers. Sort of, again, the idea was that a lot of people have been to different places, both in India and around the world. They've worked at great jobs and industries and whatnot. And there's not so much cross talk happening between the industry professionals and the students. That's something we started this conversation with as well, right? So I feel there needed to be a space where I could facilitate that. That was the naivety of the idea that we just share stuff. Like a cool guy comes in with their experience, and a guy who is looking to grow just listens to it, and that's what happens. Fast forward now,
Wow.
we've been around for 2 years, and this our community, which right now lives on Discord, we have hosted more than, I think, 10 events, formal events, and we have, like, I don't know, more than 50, 60 informal events, which include workshops, include master classes, discussions, tutorials, just general portfolio feedback. And the formal ones are a lot more hosted and curated, in the sense that we get professionals or anybody who's looking to give back to the community and has the right message. We have also sort of partnered up with design courses and just other elements of the design ecosystem to give us incentives, because um, of course, the more collaborations and more global sort of reach we have, the better it is for everybody. We have the audience, some guy who's designing a course or like building, again, in the future it could be a college that
Mhm.
wants to sort of recruit designers or students or master students. They can come and speak with us, and they have the right audience. If there's a right match, if there's a right connection, then we facilitate that. Basically, what I'm saying is we started off as a space where we had shared knowledge, and it has gone way more than that, where it has become a job board. We have tons of people getting jobs, which actually blows my mind, because this is not even a part of the thing that we are doing. So like, people are getting
Wow.
internships, and they write about how they got internships from this space, and how that whole company basically lives on Discord now, which is insane. There's people wholeheartedly giving us their opinion on what a portfolio should be as an entrepreneur, what they're looking for. There's people just without just unconditionally helping through how to manufacture your design. They're helping through messages, video calls, whatnot. And yeah, it just blows my mind. Again, we share news is a big thing, like whatever is happening in the desi scene as well as the global scene. We give feedback on work almost every day. People share their work. So there's two things, like people showcase their work just to sort of have an audience to showcase to, but there's also people who are looking for feedback. So
Hmm.
it's a mix of so many things that it's almost hard to sort of pinpoint as to what it is. All in all, it's an ecosystem of Indian designers that's just, yeah, it's just thriving right now, which it's a very humbling experience, and also broadens my understanding of what the Indian design scene is. I thought like I had a good understanding of it, but now looking at people with such varied experiences, from somebody who's just joining college to somebody who's been there 20 years. We have professors, we have entrepreneurs, we have engineers, we have people interested in design, people switching design fields and whatnot. So like that has exposed me to so much more than what I knew. But anyway, that's
Wow.
also something that if you are an Indian designer or looking to get into the industry, or looking to give back to the industry, check out Young Designers India.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put that link in the description, and I am part of that community. And I think we share more or less the same mission to create such platforms which will, help the Indian industry, Indian design industry, to be very specific, to grow and nurture, and also having that kind of a validation where what is relevant in today's time is getting verified. So that platform, I think such platforms are very helpful. So now we'll come to the final part of this podcast. It is basically about you. I have seen your YouTube channel, so that is, I think you are not promoting it properly, but whatever I have seen there, I got a gist of what your hobbies and interests are like. So, for obvious reasons, I get this understanding that you enjoy traveling, you enjoy road trips, and also you are a good musician. You play guitar and you have a band also. I forgot the name. Apologies for that. But yeah, so tell us more about that. Like, what are your hobbies and interests?
Yeah, like you mentioned, traveling is a big one. I like immersing myself into new cultures, new places. I'm also a big foodie. I love food. Yeah, you mentioned music. Music is a big part of who I am. I love playing the guitar. I love writing music. It's also the kind of music I listen to is not everybody's cup of tea. I like metal music a lot. I love
Hmm.
writing in that same sort of genre. It's almost
Wow.
become an emotional, creative outlet for me. So it's a big part of just being sane and being happy, because I love making music. I love going to shows as well, like especially, and I'm not talking about the big sort of grand big artists or whatnot. I'm talking about the more smaller, grimy people who just share a van and then tour the world, and or tour 4 or 5 cities, whatnot. Anyway, all that to say that I've yeah, I found like from this whole world where there's so many hobbies, I found like smaller things that I really enjoy. So, like you said, music, food, traveling are the big ones. I'm also getting very big into photography and videography, mostly film. I like filming stuff more than just taking pictures. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, that's on the growing front. Like I'd love to explore more video stuff.
Wow, awesome. And actually, I saw a couple of your videos, especially that video from Manali, I guess. So, like just today, I was showing that to my wife, and I was telling that this is the type of photography which I enjoy, which is not having any subject in focus, but it is just giving the vibe, vibe and culture and people, what kind of things are happening there, and beautifully done. So, it's very,
Thank you.
there is a good chill vibe. I think definitely you should do photography. You should pursue that. I think we share a lot of common interests because even I enjoy travel photography. I enjoy making videos, just not getting enough time for doing that. But yeah, that brings me to the question that you do so many things. How do you manage your time?
I've been asked this a lot of times, honestly, and I've never really struggled with. I've struggled with, let's say, balancing time between more music, more design, or
Hmm.
whatnot. But if I look at a big enough time scale, which is like a month or like a year, I feel like I accomplish
Hmm.
everything that I want to accomplish in a year. But if you talk about a day,
Oh.
that's where I struggle. Like I'm not particularly a good manager of time when it comes to a day. But when you take that scale and make it bigger to, like I said, 6 months, I feel like that's maybe a little bit of hack in my head as well. That if I can't accomplish something today, I'll probably do it next week. It doesn't matter. I'm not somebody who's very particular about the hourly distinction between. And
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons, like when I'm on like three or four different projects, like I can't do like 3 hours here and 3 hours there and 3 hours. I'm usually like, I'm gonna finish this in the first week, this one in second week, third one goes after that. I don't know if that's a secret, or that's a trick, but it just helps me sort of zoom out a little bit and you know slow everything down, than be in that daily rush to feed in everything into that small time frame.
Actually, this reminds me of something which I heard just yesterday. So I was listening to this podcast. He's a rapper in India. So what he was saying, like, really made a lot of sense for me. So what he said was that he also does so many things, but he doesn't feel any pressure of doing it, or he doesn't feel any anxiety of doing it, because he is doing something which he genuinely loves. Okay. And when you do something like that, you are less tired. You don't feel that exhaustion which you usually feel doing that 9 to 5 stressful job. So I think the key here might be that you genuinely love what you're doing, and then maybe you are able to manage your stress like that. And because you are less stressed, then you are able to put that energy into different you know different things. So maybe, but yeah, I think what you said also makes sense, that many a times we go on very minuscule level of planning, like you try to plan day minute by minute, but it's gonna end up putting a lot of pressure on your mind. So
Yeah,
maybe when you divide that, when you expand the timeline little bit in terms of weeks or something, then you have little flexibility, and your mind is also little less stressful
yeah.
to get organized.
To
So
be to
maybe
be
that is
really
a mantra
honest,
for you.
like I'm a very lazy person, and that's not just like me saying it. Like I've heard it from many people that like I'm like very visibly lazy when it comes to living.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, just like throughout the day. Like I mean, it started off as like a joke, because like my parents would be like, I have to say 5 times something for you to actually do something. And it still holds true till date, like, because it's not my parents saying something. Now it's me telling myself that, Sushant, you have to do something, and then I still have to say it to myself like 5 times, and I keep giving myself excuses like, ठीक है यार, आज नहीं हुआ तो कल हो जाएगा, कल नहीं हुआ तो परसों हो जाएगा. And then it just keeps going on, man. Like,
Procrastination.
ये ऑनेस्टली पता है, ये प्रोक्रेस्टिनेशन भी नहीं है. मैं सोचता नहीं हूँ इन चीज़ों के बारे में कि मुझे क्या क्या करना है. इट्स जस्ट लाइक ये
अच्छा.
करना था यार, अब मैं भूल गया, चल कोई नहीं, बाद में कर लेंगे. It's like that.
Wow.
ठीक है. Design
That's
on
a
the
very
other
good
end,
attitude.
that I don't know about, especially when there's deadlines.
Okay, so I have one question which is little personal. You can just say no to that. But tell me something that after 5 years, or forget about 5 years or any timeline, do you have any kind of a dream when it comes to you as a designer? Like in future, you want to do something, or you want to achieve something, or you want to become something like that. Do you have that kind of a vision?
I want to build a team. I don't know for what. I don't know what the goal is. I want to build a team that does their best work together, not individually. The just best work together. That's I can see myself being in the design space, building a studio or something like that. But my dream or goal is to build a rockstar team.
Oh, awesome, awesome. That is quite wonderful. That brings me to the final conclusive part of this podcast.
Yay!
You are kind of relieved, no? It's
No,
been like what,
I'm
almost 2 hours.
the audience would be like, oh, dude, ये तो बोले जा रहे हैं यार, खत्म नहीं हो रहा इनका.
I was gonna ask that we have covered so many things, but still, if you have any kind of words of wisdom or something which you realized from your experience a little late in your life. So let's say if somebody is just joining design or thinking of joining the design industry as such, do you have any sort of suggestions or advice for them?
I do. I'm a very
Awesome,
opinionated person. I feel like I
awesome.
always have. I'm always looking to see how you can do things better. I'm also very like how do you say, like, I look back at my life and reflect on things that I've done and what I could have done differently. So this advice is going to come a little bit more from that personal experience. I feel I could have spent more time with the people around me, in colleges and schools versus competing with them.
Mm.
When I was in college, there was this sort of toxic competition, and that would result in being better and spending time being better and spending time being away from people. That actually could have led to even a deeper understanding of what relationships are, what community is, what culture is.
Mm.
So I would say, like, if you are in that rat race of becoming the best designer, be the best designer, but with your friends. You wanna, how do you say this? Like, when you get to a stage 4 to 5 years in your career, and then you look into your network, and if you are the smartest person in your network, I think you're doing it wrong. Like,
Mm.
you always want to surround yourself with really smart people so that you can learn from them, so that you can keep growing, and that starts early on. So yeah, so two pieces of advice: when you're in college, make connections, be with people, don't be judgy. I was very judgy. I still am, but like, it's a lot more it's just a fun exercise that helps me come up with jokes but it's not intentionally, harmful to anyone. So don't be judgy, make friends, keep those connections. And secondly, don't be in a situation where you're the smartest person in a company, in a room, in your team or whatever. Like, always have people smarter than you around you, to so that you can learn and grow. Just combine both of those. What I'm also trying to say is, like, be in a diverse environment. That starts early on, even before joining a college. If you're someone who's looking to join a college or doing masters or wherever you are in your career, be around people that are not like yourself. I think it is that human
Oh,
tendency to find people who are like you, because that's what brings you comfort, right? North Indians will stay with Northeast, South Indians will
true. Yeah.
stay together. तो एंड ऑल्सो डिज़ाइन में भी ऐसे ही होता है, यू गो टू कंपनीज जो एक टिपिकल टाइप का डिज़ाइन कर रही हैं, तो उसी मेंटालिटी वाले लोग उधर ही जाते हैं. द साइकिल कंटिन्यूज. वी टॉक अबाउट एनआईडी, वहाँ पर भी साइकिल कंटिन्यूज. I'd say, like, be the person who wants to break this pattern, because growth and learning will come from diversified experiences and not just the same stagnant pattern.
Mm.
It's the same loop that's gonna run. तुम लोग क्या नया सीखोगे यार, सारे लोग एक ही loop में चलते रहेंगे. So
Yeah, yeah,
that is, yeah, that is my yeah, that's some of the things that I would do differently in the past, some of the things that I think can benefit as I am also learning and growing.
wow, man, awesome. Actually, that is such a deep and valid advice. Definitely, when I look back, even I would tell a same thing to a 16-year-old Saket if I get a chance. But yeah, that is for sure. That is true. There couldn't have been a better way to finish this podcast. So, thank you, Sushant, for coming here. Thank you for giving your time and sharing wisdom with all of us. I am sure this is gonna help so many students, and I hope people who are watching this, please let us know in the comment section that uh, have we covered all the points, or was there anything else you wanted to know, or something like that. That is going to help me to build the next content for my channel. So, saying that, thank you again. Thanks for coming here.
Thanks, Saket. Thanks so much for having me, and for the audience who's been sticking around listening to this long podcast. Thanks everything that you do, Saket, for the design community. And you can find both of us online anytime.
Yes, yes, yes. I think we are very approachable people on social media. So if you have anything, just ping us on, let's say, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you are. Yeah. So let's conclude this podcast. I'll see you, Sushant.
Bye bye.
Peace.